Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
And welcome into another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matt High. It's been a little bit since I've been on with you guys, going through a little bit of a move. And let me say before we start off the show, you never know how much stuff you have until you need to move it from one location to a completely different one. So it's not fun. But I'm joined tonight by Mr. Joe Capozzi and Mr. Chris Felice. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Dealing with crazy free agencies, which we will be talking about in tomorrow's show. So stay tuned for that one, and getting ready to talk about some dynasty seasons in full effect. So, football never stops here.
No, definitely not at the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast, that's for sure. Chris, how are we doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good. Honestly, just kind of like taking it all in. All these crazy off-season moves for all the teams. Some of which very surprising. Also, some more rumors going around. That's a little weird. But yeah, definitely taking that all in. I'm doing great, having fun, and I'm ready to get on with today's episode.
All right, awesome. Yeah, we're gonna do a episode. We're gonna record it tomorrow. Most things should hopefully have calmed down a little bit. Try to
You say that.
not get I say that. And then we're gonna get hit with some huge thing tomorrow, but yeah, definitely
Waiting
stay tuned
Justin
for that
Fields
episode. Yeah,
or this Justin Jefferson thing.
Yeah. We'll save that for tomorrow, though. So little teaser. But on today's episode, we're gonna go through some of the rookie quarterbacks. All the top guys that you're gonna be looking at in drafts, and just kind of going over our evaluations of them and where we think they might fit best, and just kind of general thoughts on the quarterback position in this year's class. So before we get started, do you guys have any comments just in general about this quarterback class in 2024 versus previous years? Joe, we'll start with you. I know you have a lot of picks, or you've researched these guys religiously. So
it's pretty good. I mean, there's definitely one guy that's very good, and then some of the other ones I've seen, it's pretty good. There's I'd say at least 4 guys that I could see immediately being day one starters, and then a couple other guys I could see developing behind proven guys and eventually taking over the reins maybe down the season if the team sucks, or next season when they get their shot. Almost like a Jordan Love scenario.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Joe here. This is very reminiscent of this perhaps the 2020 QB draft class, which had Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Herbert. I believe those were the 5 big names coming out. I could be missing one, and if I am, I apologize. But they were that was all the rage. They had a lot of hype. I would say that the Caleb Williams hype is definitely a little over what most of them were. I think at the very least. So take with that what you will. But it's definitely very reminiscent of that. And all 5 people I just mentioned are now very stable, good quarterbacks on decent to good teams. Sorry, Justin Herbert, decent team. It's not your fault though, I promise. I think at least. I don't know. You guys keep getting injured. But yeah, no. Definitely a very exciting time if you're looking to rebuild at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's this class is pretty good. Just off the top of my head, are you taking any of these guys over CJ Stroud? You have to put these guys in together in a draft.
Now? Week
who's
1?
going first? Yeah.
I mean, that's hard. That's like a kind of like an unfair question because we know Stroud's good, where these guys haven't been on a pro NFL field yet. But purely speaking, as a prospect perspective, yes, I would take one of these guys over CJ Stroud, purely based off of a perspective, just looking at them as a prospect player.
Yeah, I feel like if you went back in time and you took the prospect reports of CJ Stroud and you put him up against Caleb Williams or Jane Daniels. The Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels might look better, I think. Well, definitely Caleb Williams at the very least, 100%. Without a question there, I think at least. But in terms of like, if you're in a dynasty team, right, and you're a whole like your quarterback stack is CJ Stroud and either like Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or like Drake May or something like that, and you're trying to decide who to start, I think I start CJ Stroud personally. As Joe said, he's proven. We don't know where these quarterbacks end up going, the situation they're going to be in. Like if you know ride or die at that very moment, it's CJ Stroud, 100%. I mean, they just did some upgrades to the offense as well, and I imagine they're not going to stop. I see no reason not to trust CJ.
Yeah, we'll get into that because I feel a little bit differently than you guys on that, but we'll get into that now. So
Dude,
first one
this
up,
guy.
I know. Hey, I got differing opinions, man. But Caleb Williams, projected to go to the Bears or whoever at 101, depending on what they do. Rightfully so. Let's start there. 6'1", 215 pounds. His 2023 season wasn't as good as his 2022. His offensive line was pretty bad and had some issues. 394 pass attempts, 268 completions, 3,600 passing yards, 30 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Those are pretty good numbers for college. In the NFL, those are still decent numbers. He didn't participate in any of the NFL combine drills or the medicals, which for me is a yellow flag. I'm not calling it a red flag. It's a yellow flag just because usually guys don't not do the medicals. They at least do those. Like multiple guys, they're like, we don't need to do the combine drill because I am that dude. But that should be fine, but it's just one of the things that you got to keep an eye out. That's probably why the Justin Fields trade hasn't happened yet, because they're doing their due diligence. Still got pro days coming up. So, but Joe, I know you are completely enamored with Caleb Williams, rightfully so. But what are your thoughts on the projected 101 in the NFL draft?
Yeah, I mean, he is a generational talent. I mean, if you look, everyone's talking about it. ESPN, or I think it's Fox Sports, he's an NFL analysis, Joel Klatt. He ranked the top quarterbacks perspective since 2012, and he would take Caleb over Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Drake May, and Bryce Young as a prospective quarterback. And those are some big names. I really like Joe Burrow. I'm a huge Trevor Lawrence fan, so that's kind of saying something that he ranks him above those prospects. And you got to remember, like Tua was in that class, and from a perspective standpoint, Caleb Williams is higher than all these guys. And I know everyone says, "Oh, he didn't have as good of a 2023 season," which is true. We also have to look at the numbers. He had a 66% completion record in 2022, and it went up to 68%. I mean, even though he's not throwing as many yards, he's throwing more complete passes. Good sign. And you also have to remember he lost Jordan Addison, who we all know is pretty good at football. So when you lose a weapon like that your sophomore year, of course you're not going to do as good. I mean, like look at Kyler Murray. He lost D Hopkins and obviously had a decline. When you lose your best receiving weapon, you're not going to perform the same without it. But that being said, Caleb's great. He's athletic. He can run. He can throw. I think that's what a lot of teams want nowadays in the NFL game is they don't want just want a pocket passer. They want someone that is a little bit more mobile, and that's what Caleb brings to the ballpark. He can do it all. 5 interceptions in 2023, and he threw 5 interceptions in 2022. I mean, you don't a guy that doesn't turn the ball over very much. He's the complete package. He's going to go number 1 overall, whether it's to the Bears, whether the Bears traded to another team. He's going to be a day 1 starter, and if he's not, I don't know what the team that's drafting him is doing because he's ready. I want to see what he can do. I'm not expecting him. I don't think he's going to have like a huge blow up year like CJ Stroud did, but I do think in the long run he's going to be very Lamar Jackson-ish, where he's going to be very good, and I see him winning a MVP during his career in the NFL at least one season.
What you touched on the question I was going to ask you after all that is where do you see him year one? Is he top 12, top 15? Because let's just be clear, CJ Stroud broke rookie records and that was a complete outlier season. We don't usually see
Yeah.
that from a rookie quarterback. So if that's the level that he comes in, if he can hit that, great. But I feel like I would temper expectations year one. But I do think I agree with you. He is a really good prospect. I don't know if I would take him over some of the other guys, but I do think
In this
coming
class,
into the
or
NFL, he's in this class. I think he's
Yeah.
still one. But I'm saying like Joe Burrow, like all the
Oh,
other
yeah.
guys.
Well,
I think I would still.
it's almost like an unfair question because we know Joe Burrow's really good. We know Trevor Lawrence is really good. I think what Joel Klatt is saying is it's like if you're looking when they were coming out of college, like not don't count like their NFL careers.
Yeah.
Coming out of college from strictly that standpoint, Caleb Williams looks like a better quarterback perspective than Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence did.
I think I would agree with the Trevor Lawrence. I don't know about Joe Burrow. I liked his tape, but either way, we're splitting hairs. He's the one. You don't really got to say too much else. But Chris, where do you see Caleb? What are your thoughts on him?
Um, hmm. Personally, right? There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways this can go. At the current moment, I think a big thing is obviously where he lands matters a lot, right? Obviously, that's like a no brainer. But I think more like into that, touching on the combine thing first, also, and I really feel this. I don't feel as if not participating in the combines or the medical is a super big deal. I actually heard rumors that a trade for Justin Fields isn't going well because apparently some executives within the NFL believe he's on par with Drew Lock, which is probably the most insane thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Uh, but that's apparently what I've heard. Apparently they're getting lowballed for Justin Fields. So I don't know what's gonna go on there. I also heard someone go, hey, they should just draft Caleb anyway and have him redshirt a year behind Justin Fields, which also sounds stupid. I feel like if you draft Caleb Williams, you want Caleb Williams. Besides the point. Going back to the player itself. Um, the stats are there. He has the hype going into it. My big concern personally, right? And while I understand that even like after last year's draft, the whole thing was like, well, but Caleb Williams is better than Bryce Young or whatever the case may be. Bryce Young still had a lot of hype going into his going into this year. He was the guy. It was Adam Thielen and someone please tell me what the other wide receiver was. Why can't I think of him? Who else was on that team? Who was
The
it?
Panthers.
Jonathan Mingo.
No, that was the rookie they drafted, but they had another veteran receiver on that team. Why can't I think of him?
Was it
Visca
are you thinking of
Chenault was there.
Marshall?
Terrace Marshall. Yeah.
Was it Terrace Marshall?
Yeah. Either
Terrace
way,
Marshall Jr.
not
Besides
good.
the point. Yeah, the whole like and while we saw decent numbers from Bryce Young here and there, and we saw some of the wide receivers flourish to a certain extent every now and then. All in all, it kind of like took a dip for the most of the season. Like your expectations were kind of shattered. So truthfully, with Caleb Williams, I understand the hype. I understand wanting to feel like this guy is going to be on top of the football world and whatnot. As much as I would like to say I love him, I would temper my expectations if I had your 101 and I needed a quarterback. I feel like going from college to the league is a very big transition, and I would be a little terrified to put all my eggs into that basket if that's what I was going with in a sense. I personally don't like putting all my eggs in all the rookie baskets unless you have like 3 or 4 of the rookie QBs in general. But in this specific case, I am very anti pick 1 QB. As I think I was mentioning this before the show actually started. So that's where I'm going to sit here. I think his numbers look great. There should be no reason why that happens. It's just a feeling that I have. I'm going by what the gut says. And sometimes that's wrong and sometimes it's correct.
Fair enough. I mean, Caleb, he will have every single opportunity in the NFL to succeed. And the Bears are going to have to make sure they surround him with people, playmakers,
If the Bears
kind
get
of
him.
unlike, yeah,
True.
that is true. Yeah, I mean, it's still anything can happen, but any team that gets him is going to need to surround him with guys because don't go the Justin Fields route where we're going to draft you but give you no one to throw to and no offensive line and just basically say, okay, you're good, right? And then kind of leave him out to die. I feel like that's kind of what happened to Justin Fields. We'll still wait and see what happens, but let's move on here to Jaden Daniels out of LSU. 6'4", 210 pounds, the 2023 Heisman Trophy winner. He played 5 years in college. His last season was pretty good. 332 pass attempts to 236 completions, 3,800 yards passing, 40 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. That's awesome. And he had 65 rush attempts for 1,250 yards and 10 rushing scores. That is his second back-to-back 1,000-plus yard rushing total. So obviously he's a guy that gives you that fantasy upside that we love. The Lamar Jackson, the Jalen Hurts, the Josh Allen that are going to rush for that much and has a little bit, to offer in the passing game as well. Would you guys see a scenario where you might take Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams in fantasy, or is that too far-fetched?
I think overall probably not. No, even though I just did the whole spiel about how I'm against it. Like probably not. No, I mean I'm not going to argue with what the experts go with, right? I mean it depends obviously. Like if Jaden Daniels somehow ends on like an insane team, maybe like if I'm in like a redraft or something, I don't know. But like in a dynasty perspective, I would probably side with Caleb Williams pretty much 9 times out of 10, unless if you really don't like. Maybe you hate USC. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm just thinking of reasons why you wouldn't want to take him over Jaden Daniels. I think the rushing aspect is fantastic. I think that's awesome. I think that makes him a little more flexible to a certain degree, but that's not great when on the other end that probably also means you're more inclined to get hurt. We don't truly know how durable you are until you enter the league and you're taking those big league hits. That's my concern. But yeah, what about you, Joe? What do you think?
Yeah, there's no world that I take any of. Don't even ask me this question again. There's no world that I take any of these quarterbacks over Caleb Williams because it's. Don't get me wrong. I think Jaden Daniels is very good. We went from having Drake May being the number 2 quarterback in the class to a lot of people saying that now Jaden Daniels is the number 2. It goes back and forth. I've seen either Jaden Daniels or Drake May. You're either on one side of the fence or the other. I could see both. I think they're both going to be good. I think one of them will be on Washington and the other one will be on the Patriots and vice versa. What order that is, I do not know. I'd rather have whichever quarterback is on the Commanders instead of the Patriots because they have a lot more weapons to throw to rather than the Patriots run heavy offense. And outside of Juju, I don't who else is on there to catch balls. There's like no one over there. So much rather have whichever quarterback goes to Washington because look what even what's his name that is the quarterback there that is probably going to be benched now. The rookie. He was a rookie. No, on Washington.
Oh,
Mr.
Sam Howell.
Sam Howell. Even Sam Howell looked pretty
Baker
good
Mayfield.
There. Even Sam Howell looked pretty good there. So imagine what one of these top prospects is going to do over there, So.
Yeah, I know in the Dynasty community, I've seen a couple of people. I've listened to a few other podcasts, and it seems a lot of people are really enamored by Jaden Daniels, mainly because the rushing upside. And while I can see that, I still think there are concerns in his game that I've seen. yes, he has immense rushing upside. There's no doubting that. Just gets chunk play after chunk play on the ground. But he doesn't protect himself and he takes unnecessary hits. And being at 210 pounds, he's tall, but he's a little bit more lanky. And in the NFL, you take a couple wrong hits and then you're done. I mean, look at what happened to Anthony Richardson and all these other guys. Like, you take the wrong hit, that's it. And I love Anthony Richardson, but he's gotta work on that a little bit. I know it's a little bit different, but I just see longevity being a concern for fantasy. He could give you that crazy upside, that league winning performances, but in a longevity aspect, I do think there are concerns for me. To me, he kind of seemed like a Kyler Murray almost, decent in the pocket, scrambles outside. He can extend the plays and he was not afraid to roll out, but a little bit of an accuracy concern. I didn't really see too much else, but landing in the right spot, he could be decent. So being a 5-year player is usually a red flag. You want these guys to go out year 3 or 4 and come to the NFL, because that's just kind of what we've been accustomed to. But I do think if he gets surrounded by the right players, he could very easily be the guy you want. We could look back 3 years from now and be like, yeah, I wish I drafted him over 2 or 3 of these quarterbacks if he goes there. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see where all these rookies go. All right, so up next we got Mr. Drake May out of UNC. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. 2023 season was decent. 425 attempts, 269 completions, 3,600 passing yards, 24 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That's a little bit concerning, the low touchdown total and the increased interceptions, but not going to do anything crazy on the ground. He's going to be more of I see him more in the NFL as like a 200 to 500 yard rusher. He could also sit behind a quarterback. He might not start week 1 in the NFL just because there are some concerns with his game. But do you guys get that vibe about him at all? Or because I personally liked his tape, but I know some people say they think he might be better suited on a team that he doesn't have to start week 1 and have all that pressure, because he does have a little bit of an inconsistency in his game.
I think he's one of the if I had to pick quarterbacks to start day 1, I think it's Jaden Daniels, Caleb, and Drake May are like, well, I don't want to say guaranteed, but I'd say they're the ones leading towards being drafted and being day 1 starters. Whereas I could see like JJ and Bo and Penix and all the other ones being behind guys. But no, I think Drake May will start somewhere. Like I said, I think he's going to go to Washington, which I think will be a good fit for him. And I think Jaden should go to the Patriots. I've seen that in a lot of mocks, but it could go vice versa. And who knows who's going to trade for the first to get Caleb? Maybe Fields will be on one of those teams. Who knows what's going to happen? But
yeah,
What about you,
I don't
Chris?
know. Yeah, I don't know about the seeing. Like, it could happen, possible, I guess. But I mean, I feel like out of this list so far, I'm looking at all the quarterbacks here. I'm looking at all the stats as well. I would say that, like, out of everything here, right, the one big thing, the one super glaring thing that like pops out to me. We were talking about earlier. I think Joe was about, like, the conversation is, do you pick Jaden Daniels or Drake May? And I feel like the stats here most definitely answer that question. I mean, Daniels 332 attempts, 236 completions. Drake May had like about 100 more attempts and only about like 30 more completions. Sorry, quick math in my head. And obviously the 16 less touchdowns and 5 extra interceptions. I mean, if a team looks at this and they're a little scared, I guess I wouldn't blame them. But I feel like a team that's at this point grabbing a quarterback like this is willing to take that risk and try and mold them in some way, shape, or form to get to, if they need to, have them be, a day 1 starter. could this be like a situation where a team that has like a really old veteran quarterback, they grab him and they have him sit behind him for like half a season? I guess maybe, but I'm gonna go with Joe here. He's probably gonna be on the team since day one as a starter would be my guess.
Yeah, some of the things I really liked with Drake May is whenever I'm looking at quarterback prospects, I like the guys that do well in the intermediate area of the field. Like CJ Stroud, scouting him last year, that was one of my big takeaways is he did really well in that area. And then he came to the NFL and we all saw what happened. So having someone with that aspect to their game is something that really pushes them up my board personally. He's not afraid to throw the deep ball. He does get a little flustered under pressure, which is something that a lot of the rookies have. Typically, maybe not a couple of the guys this season, but I think he can get a little bit of coaching in the NFL and kind of get him more comfortable, get the right packages and plays together to make him really excel. So I think he starts week 1, but I know there's always that possibility where he could go to a team. Let's say he goes to the Raiders. They make a trade up. They got Derek Carr there. Doesn't mean he's going to start week 1. He'll take over because we all kind of know what some of these aging veteran quarterbacks are at this point. But that's something I could see a situation where he might sit the first 5-6 games and then jump in after and excel. But who knows? We'll kind of have to wait and see that. But
did you see Ben Kurt? He's on the Packers. He compared him to a less athletic.
Oh, I
Mason
saw
Rudolph
this.
with less arm
saw
talent.
that.
I did not see that. No.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was funny.
I really liked what I saw on tape. So
Oh,
maybe,
sorry.
I don't
maybe I'll
think
go back and
He's
look.
a more athletic Mason Rudolph with less arm talent and less accuracy.
I gotta be
Oh,
honest.
okay.
I'm willing to be hard on him for like a little, for the numbers. Like that's a little much. I mean, it's a little much. Just a little.
That's like personal. Like what
He must
did
have.
he do to you? But
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I guess I mean I want to look at these guys again as the process gets closer to the draft and everything. But I gotta say I did like what I saw with Drake May. I know in our fantasy league we were talking to one guy and he's not in it, he doesn't like Drake May at all. But I do like how I think he showed a lot of patience in most games that I watched, and allowed the play to develop a little bit before he made the throw. His footwork was pretty good, mobility was decent, so I think in fantasy drafts he could very easily be a great consolation prize because I've seen people take Caleb. He could fall to like the 108 in some drafts I've seen. So if you're getting yeah, I've seen a couple lately where everyone's diving on board
in one quarterback drafts.
Two quarterback. I disagree with it. I think you should go a lot
two
higher.
Quarterback super flex rookie draft.
Yeah, people
no
are
shot.
really
People
are really high on the wide receivers, rightfully so. But they're going nuts. So for me, I'd take all 3 quarterbacks, probably 1 through 3, definitely 1 through 4. And we'll get to the guy that'll jump in there at some point, but that's kind of where I see it. So if you're getting him anything later than the 103, 104, you should count your lucky stars because he's great.
I've been doing a lot. I've watched, I can't tell you can't even count them on both hands how many mock draft videos I've watched, and I haven't seen a single one that has him out of the top 5 picks. So if you're saying you see him at 1.8, I want to be in this league. Sign me up. I'll give you my dues right now.
I'll give you the dues for the next 3 years at that point.
Yeah, right.
Sign me up, baby. All right. So next guy here, we're going to look at the Michigan quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. 6'3", 202 pounds. They won the national championship. 257 pass attempts, which seems pretty scary. He had 191 completions, 2,500 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Didn't really do too much on the ground, but they were beating up on people, so they didn't really need him at all. That's a team that was very good, and they just didn't ask him to throw. But his measurables are pretty good. He's got a really strong arm. I think it was 61 miles an hour at the combine. So, do you guys buy into the hype for JJ McCarthy to go top? I think right now they're saying top six pick.
No.
In Indy,
Absolutely
there were a
not.
couple interviews where people are looking at JJ McCarthy. He's a dark horse to go.
I like JJ
pretty high.
McCarthy. I don't think he's going to go top 6. I do like that he participated in the combine, especially when you're not one of the top 3 guys. I think it only benefits your stock to participate in the combine. So I did like that. I to go back to your point before. I see him as one of these guys that might go to a team and then sit behind someone for a year, or might sit behind someone like Vegas, and when Derek Carr starts sucking, be like, okay, here, let's try JJ. Stuff like that. I do like him. I don't know. I don't know where he's going to go. I've seen a couple drafts that have him going to the Vikings, so that'd be interesting. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah. So I'm gonna actually touch on that attempts number really fast. I actually have some stuff pulled up here, which is I think probably attributes to this number a little bit. This kid has been dealing with injuries. I'm pretty sure this entire season. He was talking about how since the beginning of the season he's been dealing with a leg injury. Didn't get the ankle injury during a win over Minnesota. He had the hamstring tightness during the combine. He had another leg injury that he said he was dealing with before the season began. You can take the how you want. You can take it as the toughness. He's willing to fight through those injuries, and he can still put up pretty good numbers, all things considered. But you can also take it as a little bit of a worrying sign that you got a guy who's risking his entire career playing through, hopefully, minor injuries. You'd have to assume, be my guess, they're minor. But we truthfully won't know, right? Probably ever. So it's definitely a double-edged sword, in a sense, in my opinion. Personally, I like it. I like the toughness. I'm gonna hope everything was just minor. I hope it was just achy. I mean, do I think he's gonna be the top 6 in the NFL draft? No, probably not. I'm gonna go with top 14. I'll go with picks 13 or 14. Why not? It could be funny. Somewhere around there. That'd be my guess. I think he was probably going to be the first quarterback that, as Joe said, gets drafted, sits behind a team, watches around. Honestly, I feel like maybe, who knows? I don't really know what the Steelers are doing, but if there's ever a time to trade up to a pick and get someone to sit behind Russell Wilson, I guess, maybe this is the time. I don't know. Just throwing it out there because he's only on a 1-year deal, so now's the time, right? If you don't like Kenny Pickett, which I don't know if they do or not anymore at this point, who knows? But yeah, so that's my synopsis. I like him. Picks 13, 14. Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, some of the things that I have in my notes here on JJ McCarthy is he's not afraid to run the ball, but his run style is a little bit different than some of the other Russian quarterbacks, where he'll choose to slide or go out of bounds and save the hit. He's got good vision with that. One of the things I always like in a quarterback is on these tight coverage throws, he'll throw it in a spot where only his wide receiver can make a play for the ball. So it's going out of bounds, only in a spot where they can go up and make a play, which goes to show they trust their wide receivers in Michigan. And that was one of the things that kind of stood out to me. So I've seen a lot of people mock him to the Giants for the reason that he can sit behind Daniel Jones and then
He'll
they
learn so
get him
much
later. But we'll see. I don't know if that spot will work. I mean, the Giants have the opportunity to go. I think that's one of the reasons why they think he could
We
be a
don't need him.
top
We have Drew
pick.
Lock.
Dude,
Yeah.
Drew.
Drew Lock.
We'll get to
Lock.
that. Don't worry. Yeah, please heal up Daniel Jones, please.
what a world we live in.
I don't like Daniel Jones, but please don't do this to me. Don't do that. We already have to talk about some major news with the Giants, so I don't want to have to do that again. But yeah, I mean, JJ McCarthy could be one of these guys that surprises us in a year or two, and we're all like looking back going, wow, all right, didn't see that, or I should have seen that. So, well, it'll be interesting to see where he lands. But I know there's a lot of buzz in the NFL about him right now, so we'll keep everyone posted on that. Keep an eye out. Next guy we got here is Bo Nix out of Oregon. 6'2", 217 pounds, 398 attempts, 312 completions, 3,800 yards, 37 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Now, that sounds amazing, but then you look at what his average depth of target is. It's under 7 yards. 30% of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage. That is a wild number.
Correct me if I'm wrong, man. I don't think you can throw it if you're past the line of scrimmage.
I meant to a receiver
Woof.
behind the line of scrimmage. A lot of dump offs. Go fight on the podcast. But yeah, no, that's everything was it was really short. A lot of the stuff was really short, close to the line of scrimmage, which, yeah, there was a lot of yak, but it's not something the NFL is going to figure that out real quick. That you're only going to throw 5 yards down the field. So what are your thoughts on
Daniel Jones?
Bo Nix here, Chris?
I gotta be honest with you. I actually like Bo Nix. I like the completion percentage. What I like the most, and this is actually I wanna really emphasize this, and I think that might contribute to that percentage you talked about earlier about how many yards he's actually throwing for. The 2.44 seconds time to throw is insane compared to, I believe, every other person on this list. I'm almost positive. Yeah, he is. I'm checking really fast. I'm pretty sure that's like point.
He's one of the lowest.
It's the lowest person on this list. It is the lowest person on this entire list. By like 0.3 seconds. That's a lot. Now, this really matters on Bo Nix, but this is the type of guy. He's your project QB, right? This is the type of guy you're going to draft. You're going to send him behind somebody. You want to instill into him that A, you probably don't need to slingshot this thing to the first open guy you see, and B, right, you can move out of the pocket. Depending on the situation you're in, you don't need to stay in there. You can be a little mobile, look for a better target, throw it deep down. I kind of like Bo Nix. I really do. I think this is the type of guy that, like, maybe not to the extent of Jordan Love, where it took him like 4 years to get to this point because he had to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. But similar situation, he might sit behind a pretty good or decent QB because he's currently ranked 5th in this list, and I feel like he's like switching between JJ McCarthy and and himself. So it definitely could end up being in that place. He might end up on a decent team and have a really good opportunity to learn, and then honestly explode into season. I actually like Bo Nix a lot as a draft future. Like you're drafting this guy knowing that within a couple of years he's going to be your guy. You're not starting him now, but in a couple of years you're starting him as hopefully your QB1 on your Superflex Dynasty team. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I like Bo Nix a lot. I'm gonna give a shout out here to our co-podcast person, Warren Weber. So Warren, the last time Warren told me, so Warren's very high on Bo right now. The last time Warren was high on a quarterback, and he's like, I watched a lot of Bo Nix tapes. I like him. I think he's gonna be really good. The last time Warren told me that was in 2020 when he's like, dude, I really like that guy Justin Herbert. I've been watching a lot of his tapes. I think I'm gonna draft him. He took him in the 1.9 in our rookie draft, the 9th pick, and look where Herbert is now, value wise. So I kind of trust Matt Warren's judgment on quarterbacks a lot after that, and he doesn't say it very often. So the fact that he really likes Bo Nix now made me watch a lot of Bo Nix, and I also like Bo Nix. I also like that he went to the combine, and I liked what I saw out of him. I've seen a couple mocks of him going to the Broncos, and I kind of love that for him
Ooh, I
because
like
I think
that.
that'd be a really good spot for him. I also agree with Chris that he could sit behind someone and also develop into a future starter. I like Bo more than I like JJ personally,
Agreed.
and I think Bo. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I'm hoping Bo gets day one draft capital, and if he does, I easily see him in the top 10 rookie picks. I could see him at 1.7, 1.8 in Superflex, even 1.9 maybe if you really need wide receivers before him. But yeah, Bo's a good quarterback. Definitely can be an NFL quarterback, and it's I kind of even like him a little more than Drake May. Granted, I think Drake May will obviously see better draft capital than Bo, but who knows?
Yeah, that the Broncos thing is that's been the biggest, the most favored odds to land on the Broncos, and I going back to Warren, we were talking before like a couple weeks ago when I was looking at rookie film and all, and he asked if I got to Bo yet. He didn't tell me why. He just said, "Did you get to Bo Nix yet?" I
This
was like,
guy's the
"No."
QB guru.
I was like, he's the next guy I got to go to. I got to watch more of his
Yeah.
tape. I got to watch his tape, and I did, and I'm like, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, Chris, potential project quarterback. He's got to. You don't have to just dump the ball off quick. Like there's a time and a place for that, and I think that is something that can easily be as he gets acclimated to NFL football. I think he definitely could shy away from that because like when he does throw downfield, it's it's pretty good. You know, there's a lot of stuff he throws in a position where the wide receiver can create yards after catch, which is something that's always translatable to the NFL in most cases. Um, he just makes clutch throws. Like he doesn't do it too often to the point where he's chucking 40, 50 yards down the field or in the intermediate area. A lot of it is lower, but it kind of just worked. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it worked. Um, huge jump in touchdowns going from 2022 and earlier to 2023, which is something I like to see. Some people get shied away from that because it means like, all right, well, did this just happen? Sometimes things just click with these quarterbacks coming in their last season, and it just translates. So we see that in a couple cases. It's a little concerning with the low A dot, but I think with the talent of the NFL wide receivers nowadays, he has the skills and the tools to be successful. It just depends on what opportunity he gets. If he's drafted in the first round, I'm all in. If he falls to day two, I'm going to be a little more concerned. And then that's where you look more. He's probably going to go to the mid to end of the second round in dynasty rookie drafts. But you said it, Joe. You like him over JJ McCarthy. Is it crazy that we could have 5 quarterbacks in the first round? And I have seen mocks with all 6 that we're talking about today, all in the
It,
first round.
it's definitely interesting. I certainly think 3 of them are going to be the first round. I'm fairly confident. I would say 4 of them are in the first round of the draft. I don't know. 5, I think, is pushing it, and I don't think we're going to see 6, but it's possible. You never know. But I think there's good enough. A lot of wide receiver talent in this class. A lot of good key players for like linemen and safeties. So I don't think, but we'll see. I'm not an NFL analysis. It's just all speculation. But if I had to make a wager bet with money, I'd say we would see 4 quarterbacks in day 1 of the NFL draft.
Yeah, to me, to get to 6, it requires one of these teams early in the draft to trade back up into the first round. That maybe they take a lineman or a wide receiver early and then go into the.
Man, I think your video froze.
I believe he
the
is gone.
scenario I see.
Oh,
but-
nope, he's back. Hey, you kind of like went into the abyss
I'm
for
back.
a moment. Yeah, kind of rewind by 5 seconds.
You
and
almost
go
made
again.
it to day 2. We almost drafted you in day 2.
Oh, he's frozen again.
Oh, yeah.
He is gone. We're gonna.
If I had to bet,
Yeah.
I would say Caleb, Jaden, Drake May, and Bo Nix all see day 1 capital.
Really?
I think JJ McCarthy is going to be an early day 2, like an early, almost like you know how Will Levis was like, oh, he might go first overall.
true.
He's definitely day 1. Didn't get drafted. Early day 2, he was taken. Think the same thing's going to happen with JJ McCarthy. He's going to be an early day 2 guy, and I think Michael Penix Jr. will be somewhere day 2, 3. Welcome back, Matt. We were just talking about which quarterbacks we think
We were
are
stalling.
going to be day 1.
We were. Go ahead and please finish your thought.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I was just saying that I don't know where I cut out, so I apologize if you're hearing this after. But basically, if for all 6 quarterbacks that we're talking about tonight go first round, it would take a team that maybe passes a quarterback early in the draft and trades back up into the first round with one of the the Chiefs or someone else, just to sneak in to get that 5th-year option, because that is a valuable asset to have on your team, to not have to worry about a quarterback after 4 years, which we're seeing a lot of teams just to get that, have the ability and option to do that. So
Speaking, this is kind of off topic, but kind of on topic with quarterbacks, and I wanted to get both of your perspectives on it. I read an article that there's been rumors that for Justin Fields, that the Philadelphia Eagles were interested in Justin Fields.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, what? Why? What are your thoughts? I just want to get your thoughts on that before.
Who said this?
that sounds like clickbait. That sounds
Who
like
did that?
someone decided,
Who said
hey,
this?
let's have some
That's what I
fun
heard.
It was
here.
AJ Brown,
Hold on,
wasn't
let me
it?
find the
You
article.
took an AJ Brown burner account, and
It
you
was AJ. It was AJ Brown.
and AJ Brown burner reported that. That
Yeah.
sounds a little
That's
little
too
insane.
wild.
Yeah,
You're not gonna do that.
I understand that
Look, it's
they
even
had
on Sports Illustrated.
That's crazy. Yeah, I understand that there were concerns, or I mean, there might still be concerns with Jalen Hurts, but nothing that was there couldn't be worked out. No, that's that ain't it, Chief. That is not it. Not at all.
Yeah, the Eagles aren't doing that. And tomorrow morning when we wake up, if we see that, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
No,
I'll quit.
More accurately, I think the best, personally, in my opinion, the best landing spot for Fields right now, outside of staying on the Bears and being their quarterback, is I could see the Seahawks trading for him and having him and Geno compete for that starting spot. And I think he'd be really
Cool.
good on the Seahawks too.
I agree.
Yeah, you'd have his best weapons ever. I mean, you're talking DK, Lockett, JSN. I mean, no offense there, but he's just a guy. So that would be
you're
good.
right.
Yeah.
They're all guys, man.
I know, but he's it ain't gonna
Kenneth
happen.
Walker also catches the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like he would have that would definitely like be the perfect way for him to kind of get him. That'd be cool.
Sorry, I digress. I have Fields on the brain.
Yeah.
As you can see by my
As
Fields
everyone
helmet
does.
right here, I don't know where he's going. I'm panicking. So
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a 3rd rounder for him. Just send him my
A
way.
3rd round.
Marcin was
Third
already
rounder.
trying to buy him from me. So
Yeah. Well, he doesn't need anybody. He's good. He has a Minshew mania. He's good.
Minshew.
Alrighty. Last guy here, Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, 6'3", 213 pounds, 428 pass attempts in 2023, 281 completions, 3,900 passing yards, 32 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Did pretty much next to nothing on the ground. He did score 3 rushing touchdowns, but a total of 33 yards. Not great, Bob. He is a pretty, watching him pass the ball was pretty good. I did like it. He's not someone that I see coming into the league week 1 and being very good. You know, he's probably the most project quarterback, in my opinion, in this class. You know, out of these top guys here. But you do see flashes. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on Michael Penix. You know, he's a 5-year guy in college, but what are your thoughts?
The amount of Michael Penix hype that I saw and how fast it plummeted when he lost to Michigan was crazy. They're like, "Oh, this guy's he's gonna be right after Caleb. He's a day 1 pick. He's so good. He's the best." And then he loses 13-34 to Michigan, and oh, now you don't even hear about him. Now he's like a day 2, 3 guy. You know, so like Matt just said, he has shown glimpses of being good, but he's also shown some glimpses of being very bad. So, like all players, but I mean, in a national college championship playoff game, he did not perform, and the world took notice because that's a big stage, and I think that's what people are most remembering him for, is that lack of execution in that game. And I definitely think he is a sit behind the guy, learn, and day 2, 3 draft capital guy. What about you, Chris? What do you think of Mr. Penix?
Before you start, Chris, I do think he got injured in that game. Sorry, I just want to throw that. I think he got injured in that game, and he also had the injury history. But his medicals did check out in the combine. So just want to throw that out there because I think that's part of the reason why his draft stock has slid a little bit. But continue, Chris.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. So I'm gonna compare this to Bo Nix really fast. The reason why I'm higher on Bo Nix in almost every facet, right, is that while yes, he's also shown glimpses, right, same as Michael Penix, right. The issue are these stats, right. This guy threw for 428 times and only has 281 completions. 8 interceptions, 32 DDs. I think 8 interceptions is the most on this list. Nope, he's 1 under Drake May. Sorry, Drake May. My apologies. But no, like this is as you said, Matt. Definitely a project QB. I would not feel confident starting this guy. If I own a franchise and I drafted this guy and I said, "Get out there, kid. You got the day 1 start," I would probably be fired. Unless if I worked for the Panthers, then they would praise me. But no,
they do like mediocrity over there.
They really do. They really do. Yeah, I don't see it. The rushing attempts also scares me. 24 attempts at 33 yards is, I believe, the worst percentage line on this list. I actually want to say every single other person at least broke 100 yards at least. I believe. I don't see Caleb Williams' rushing yard stats on my list here, but I'm willing to bet you he rushed for over 100 yards throughout the season. I'd be willing to put money on that. So this is most definitely a project. This is your maybe guy. This is the hope for the future.
Agreed. So now there's one guy I wanted to bring up because he did have hype a while back. Coming out of high school, he's a highly touted prospect. Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. Now he's 6'1", 217 pounds. The hype on him originally was very high. I remember a few years back, everyone was saying he's someone to look out for. Could go 101 in the NFL draft. And it didn't work out for him. because he had some issues competing with Caleb Williams, and rightfully so, because Caleb Williams is better, but he's someone that would not surprise me if he went to a situation. Let's say he goes to the Buccaneers. Definitely doesn't have to start right away, but sitting behind that team, learning, he could go like the Jordan Love route, where he's not going to play for a few years, but you can get him super cheap in drafts and just sit with him on your taxi squad for a while and see if it works out. Cost ain't going to be high, so it's worth a shot, in my opinion. Have you guys looked at Spencer Rattler at all, or no?
I remember hearing all that hype. They're like, "Oh, he's the white Patrick Mahomes. He's so good. He's gonna be day one." I'm like, okay, maybe I'll keep an eye out for this guy. And then you don't hear anything about him anymore. So yeah, I would definitely love to pick him up as like a late round pick as a bench stash. I mean, you know me, I'm the master of late quarterback rookie stashes over
You
here.
find value in late quarterbacks.
I
Yes.
always
Yes,
find
you do.
value in my late quarterbacks. So you would definitely be a guy I wouldn't mind stashing away for a future date. Maybe you'll turn into a Brock Purdy down the line.
Possibly, but
Very
I mean,
unlikely.
it's a
but
low
you never know.
probability.
But it's also a very low cost, like you said.
Exactly.
It is very
So
low cost. You're not losing a lot. I agree. I don't
Yeah.
see why not if it's there.
Just wanted to throw that name out there as someone to keep an eye out late as you get late in drafts, because at that point you're talking he's probably going to cost you a late third at most, probably a fourth or fifth. He might even go undrafted in your rookie drafts. So just someone to kind of keep an eye out for, because in the right situation, just like any of these guys, in the right situation, they could prove to be valuable. And at that point, why not take a shot, especially in a super flex league? Quarterbacks hold a ton of value for years. Trey Lance held value until really last season.
Rip.
But-
Rip.
Yeah. So it's crazy when these guys are drafted in certain spots. It's just you can still sell it to someone. But all right, I think that's going to wrap it up for the quarterbacks. We're going to be doing every position. There's a lot of wide receivers, so that might be a 2-part series. But we got running backs and everything coming up, tight ends. We'll do some free agency stuff. We're going to react, hopefully, to some more fun news that we wake up to tomorrow. But we will see how that goes. So that'll do it from us here on the show. We'll catch you on the next one. So long, everyone.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.